hindering the government's efforts to boost economic growth. Inflation at 7.3% is the highest in 32 years. Our business editor Ross Greenwood is here in the parliamentary studio with me. So explain whether this inflation number gives the budget a knock less than a day after it was delivered, Ross.
Well, it just has to, right? It's inevitable because the government has said its forecast for inflation late this year is 7.75%. So you've already got 7.3% and there's more to come. But the second part about this is in this quarter that it's measured, it's actually had petrol prices go down significantly. In other words, that's deflationary. But it's household goods, it's food, it's electricity, it's gas prices rising that are causing this. So you can see the one thing here is the trim mean. So those numbers, which is the underlying rate of inflation, strips out the volatile things like petrol and food, that's 6.1%. Now, that's been measured since 2003 and has never been this high. That's the measure that the Reserve Bank prefers. So the Reserve Bank meets Melbourne Cup Day, November 1st, next week, and has to now make a decision after having eased back on the 0.5% rate rises. Does it keep going at 0.25%? Does it actually go back to 0.5%? What message does it want to send in its fight against inflation? Because that measure is quite clearly way too high for the Reserve Bank right now.
Ross, has it changed the view on where interest rates end up? I know our regular on our programs, Warren Hogan, believes it's now going to get above the 4% mark. What's your read?
Well, the read is that right now the markets are pricing in 100% that the Reserve Bank will go up by 0.25% next Tuesday. Now there's suggested to be a 25% chance of it going up by 0.5%. But some of the banks today have also changed their forecast. So a couple of them, Commonwealth Bank says it will peak at 3.1%. But by contrast, the ANZ Bank is now indicating that it believes the rate will actually peak at 3.85%. So it shows an enormous disparity between where the individual bank economists believe it will end up. But if it does end up around about that 4% mark, remember that your mortgage is going to be approaching 6%. And the stress test was really only about 5% when interest rates were at record lows. So this is where, again, the pressure starts to build on the budget, on the ability for business to cope and households to cope as well, because their spending is quite clearly going to fall as those interest rates rise.
Yeah, indeed, Ross. It doesn't sound too great over the next 12 to 18 months. Appreciate that. Okay. Nice to see you here in Canberra.